So within the last day or so, both Ripple and the SEC have both filed motions to the judge in order to keep things hidden. The SEC wants some things hidden, of course, and now Ripple wants some things sealed and hidden from public as well. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what they want sealed and what attorney Jeremy Hogan had to say about the SEC's most recent reply. And while this is a particularly big war in the crypto space, we're looking at an even bigger war shaping up, this for the control of the cryptocurrency world in terms of its regulation. I'm going to tell you what the SEC and the CFTC are doing and going back and forth with each other for essentially ultimate control of the cryptocurrency world. Because the news just came out what the CFTC has just created in anticipation that they're going to be the ones getting control of crypto. And if they in fact do, is that going to be good, bad, or much of the same? We're also going to take a look at what Bitcoin and some of the rest of these markets are doing right now, right on the verge of the FOMC meetings where the United States Fed could announce a huge rate hike. Hey everyone, my name is Randy and welcome back to the Late Night Grind. Right now on this channel we're covering Ripple versus the SEC as well as other cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any or all these topics interest you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, join the Late Night Grind community. Don't forget to hit that bell notification icon so that YouTube will send you a notification when I release a new video. Also, if you do a couple things, I'd appreciate it. Smash the thumbs up button, watch this video all the way to the end, and of course check out my Patreon, link in the description below. Alright guys, let's jump into it. So as we talk about the war for crypto, in the United States at least, we're talking about the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trade Commission, and the SEC, who regulates everything securities. Well, they've actually been going back and forth regarding statements from CFTC commissioners, former CFTC commissioners, and of course what the SEC continues to do, which is their regulation by enforcement without providing any clarity or rules along the way. In fact, one of the CFTC officials who is familiar with this new upcoming case, the SEC versus Coinbase, and their assertion that Coinbase is selling illegal securities on top of some insider trading that one of their former or several of their former employees were engaged in. An official who is actually familiar with this case basically went off on the SEC, and he said the SEC announcing investigation to Coinbase selling securities, basically alleging that the 9 cryptos that were being insider traded with, basically calling them securities. He said this is a direct response to Congress increasingly understanding that the CFTC, or even the SRO, is the best way to regulate the industry as dynamic as crypto. It's a last-ditch effort to try and take back control before the Loomis-Gillibrand bill passes or Republicans take office. Now, if you remember, there is a bill on the table that is getting a lot of bipartisan support, and if it passes, it would give a large swath of control over to the CFTC. And in this statement, he also included @Gary Gensler in his tweet, believes that if he can get a major arrest or a court win, that he'll be able to save face or even possibly claw back control from the CFTC. Now, the only person in Washington, D.C. with a lower approval rating than Joe Biden is probably Gary Gensler, which, ironically, Gary Gensler was actually handpicked by Joe Biden. Probably not a coincidence. Now, as I stated in my last video, Coinbase is actually digging their heels against the SEC, claiming that the cryptos that they list on their site are not securities. In fact, the SEC has already reviewed Coinbase's methodologies for analysis and determining if something is a security or not, and they approved that. So nonetheless, if that's the case, and Coinbase says these are not securities and they're not going to delist them, then why not relist XRP? Show me where it says XRP is a security. Because I don't believe there's much downside to that, but there is some major upside if you would go ahead and relist XRP. Which brings me to my next point, because this is what the CFTC just announced yesterday, and that they are creating a new technical division, essentially a new office to oversee the regulation of cryptocurrency. So they're already assuming that they're going to be getting control of regulating the crypto space. Now, they're doing that in large part due to this new congressional bill that's actually up for a vote very shortly that's getting both bipartisan support, Republicans and Democrats seeming to support this, the CFTC getting most of the control over the cryptocurrency world. And so why the FTC is actually going this route is because in this bill, it actually calls for fungible digital assets, which are not securities, to be overseen by the CFTC specifically. Now, what does this mean for the crypto space? Well, it means a lot more leeway. It means there's going to be a lot more control put back into the hands of those actually creating blockchain, Web3, blockchain companies, cryptocurrency companies, and of course letting cryptocurrencies be that which they are, currencies, commodities, or NFTs. Now, what does this mean for XRP? Well, specifically, this could mean really good things for XRP because the former commissioner of the CFTC has been on record several times saying that XRP is a digital commodity. It is not a security. By and large, the CFTC says that most of the cryptocurrency space is and should be regulated as commodities, not as securities of companies like the SEC wants to do. See, the SEC can only do one thing. They can only go after companies if, in fact, there is an illegal securities action. So in order for them to actually go after something, they have to claim that something is a security, and therefore they have oversight in going after that company, because if it's not, well, it's not in their jurisdiction. And this is what the big battle is over. So as we're taking a look at the markets right now, Bitcoin is continuing to drop a little bit. It's heading towards a support level that's probably around 19,600 or so. It may hit that by the end of today, but it looks like there are some slight divergences, which mean there could be a small move to the upside, maybe back to 21 after that. But in terms of some long-term outlooks, I'd like you to watch my next video that I already have scripted out, because it talks about some of this bear market analysis, how long it actually lasts for, an analysis of the previous bear markets, and I'm going to talk about what some Bloomberg analysts say, what Benjamin Cowen, an on-chain and market cycle analyst, has to say, as well as some of the numbers that CoinGlass, which is an on-chain cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin analytics firm, has to say. And I got to tell you, they're starting to have some confluence and match up. So be sure to look out for my next video on that analysis. So now let's talk about Ripple versus the SEC and what's going on, because there seems to be a lot of motions flying back and forth. If you're following Twitter, there's a lot of tweets and retweets about what Ripple and the SEC are both doing. So the most recent one is the SEC wants to see a little more in terms of Ripple's financials. Now, Ripple has sent a motion to the judge wanting to seal some of those financials because, of course, they don't want to allow too much of their essentially private business information going public. Now, the SEC did agree to some of that. However, they said some of those sales numbers, revenue numbers, transaction histories, and things like that, they want unsealed. So, of course, Ripple fired back to the SEC's objection with their own objection. Now, Jeremy Hogan, who is one of our favorite outside attorneys, typically who is not shy about shouting down the SEC for what they're doing, but he said this one was actually well thought out and well written in their objection. So Ripple just objected. These are flying in fast and furious, so we're going to see what the judge actually decides. Is Ripple going to get to seal some of their private business information in terms of sales numbers, revenue numbers, expenses, or is that going to be public information that we as a public are going to get to see? That would be some very interesting stuff should that come out. Obviously, we're right on the heels of what John Deaton submitted just yesterday, which was his reply. And in my opinion, it was one of the most interesting pieces that I've read about this case the entire time. Other than the Hinman emails, this is one of the most interesting things. So if you haven't watched that video and don't know what he actually replied with, you're gonna want to make sure you do it. I also wanted to talk about something that was included in that response that a lot of people probably aren't thinking about, including myself, that Jeremy Hogan pointed out. And that is, in his reply, John Deaton pointed out essentially the appearance of improprieties or potential corruption by Bill Hinman and some of the others, by including the emails that were given by the Empower Oversight Committee that were received from the Freedom of Information Act request. That basically showed Bill Hinman going around the ethics committee that said, you're not allowed to meet with your former employer, and he basically just said, don't worry about it, I got it, and did it anyway, as well as the emails of all the correspondence. And somebody asked, is the judge familiar with this? And Jeremy Hogan said, well, there's a good chance she probably isn't up until now. However, she is definitely privy to that information now. So I thought that was a really interesting piece, that somebody like Jeremy Hogan would assert that these judges might not be up to following all the, I guess what you call the backstory information or the conspiracy theories that are floating around Twitter. So for John Deaton to include this, I think was very big and probably underestimated by a lot of this community. So it's something to keep an eye out for. All right, guys, big thank you for watching this video all the way to the end, for smashing that big thumbs up button. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.